Do trans athletes need their own league, or should they be able to compete in the gender that they identify with?
We live?
We live.
We live. Welcome back to the Opinion Factory podcast, the podcast for free thinkers and challenge seekers.
Yes, sir.
I'm Khelil.
I'm Alex.
And, you know, back in high school, I ran track, right? I played a couple sports. I did soccer and I ran track.
Good sports?
Yeah, the boys team the boys soccer team, we didn't do very well, but the track team was pretty good.
Yeah.
But me, I never really broke any records. I never really won any medals. I was fast. I was one of the faster guys on the team, but I wasn't like top 3.
You are Caribbean, so you know.
That might help, but I'm also short, so that might. But anyways, I wasn't like top 3, right? So after a while, I graduated, started seeing some headlines, and I started to wonder, why didn't I just like say I was a girl, win some medals? Why didn't I just say, yo, I identify as a woman, and you should let me compete with the women?
Oh, man.
And I could bust some ass, finally.
You know, man? Because, yeah, man, I think you have too much pride, man, to do that type of thing.
No, it's not about pride, though. I'm not saying...
Would you feel right doing that, man? Like, would you honestly feel right? You know, it's like, damn, all these dudes are kicking my ass right now. So
it wasn't that many dudes, but I didn't win any medals.
Let me just go in a sport where my athletic body will benefit me. Mm-hmm. Let me just go kick some ass in the
yeah, because right? I mean the girls were pretty fast. I'm not going front. The girls, I don't think I was as fast as the fastest woman, but I was pretty close.
Female track stars are about 1 second. If you're doing like short distance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Male record is like 9.66 around there. Usain Bolt could probably do like a 9.5 if he didn't slow down, right? Mm-hmm. Or if didn't celebrate early. The women's record is like 10. I want to say like 10.6, 10.8.
Okay.
So 1 second is like it looks. I mean, it's not.
That's like a 10% difference around.
A 10.8 is still fast as shit.
A 10 is pretty fast. You talking about like the 100 meter? You said?
Yeah, I'm talking about 100 meters right now.
Yeah. I was a sprinter myself, so
fast as shit.
Yeah.
10.8 is fast as shit.
We weren't doing that in high school, but I'm saying like I was almost there with like the top females, but I wasn't really almost there with the top guys.
I mean, listen,
so why didn't I just win my medals?
There's a reason why, you know, and I'm not a scientist or a biologist, but there's a disclaimer, right?
Disclaimer, me neither.
All right, but there's a reason why women's and men's sports are separated. Men are typically, right, on average.
Keyword.
On average, right? I'll say on average.
Yeah.
Make it even better. Taller on average. Stronger on average. Right?
Faster on average, yeah.
Faster on average.
Yes.
Right? And women are typically more flexible than men, right? So we're comparing this, right?
Sure, yeah.
The easiest and best examples of this is comparing track and let's compare gymnastics, right? Men are usually fast track stars. When you go to women's gymnastics, the gymnastics is like the easiest way. How do I word this, right? The events, the things that women can do on like floor routines, and the number one thing is the balance beam, right?
Yeah.
Because the groin flexibility that we lack compared to the pelvic flexibility they have makes them superior in that aspect of the sport.
So you're saying women dominate gymnastics?
Women's gymnastics is more popular than men's gymnastics.
I feel like that's true.
There's a number of reasons, but they're also able to do things more
right.
More flexible, like more than like.
I know what you mean. Like things
like
that are focused.
Women can do splits far easier than men.
Right. When it comes to things that are focused on strength, speed, impacts, like football or whatever, men usually dominate.
And when it comes to things like flexibility, elasticity,
right?
Because women's like the wide hips and all that type of stuff,
right?
Able to do that better.
So
and there's no problem with that. There's no problem with that, man.
And so you don't see any reason to distinguish men and women's sports by testosterone.
Never occurred in my mind, sir.
See, here's the thing. Here's why I brought up what I brought up earlier,
what?
Which is clearly a joke, by the way. I don't want to become a woman just to win medals. And I don't think
there's a few people out there like that, man.
And I don't think there's actually anyone who's really doing that. But I can see why some people will feel that way. Like I said, some headlines that I've seen. It was.
Seen Juwan, man?
Yeah, that was a long time.
That was a long time. I'm just saying, bro. I'm just saying.
That's a good example. I didn't even think of that. Was that track? Or was that basketball?
Basketball.
That's actually a great example.
Come on, man. Hey.
How did I not think of that? But
listen, bro.
It was recent posts that I've been seeing. The latest was a guy, I think he was doing college track or maybe like professional track. And dude was like 9th, 8th in the men's, transitioned to a woman and just dominated. Just like blew them out of the water, not even close. Like 3 back-to-back events, like he just took the gold, like no contest.
Yeah, which is just not.
And it's like, this isn't right.
Of course it's not right.
But there's so many people saying that us saying that this isn't right makes us transphobic.
You know, last week we talked about this fake woke thing. I feel like I'm going to attach this to the, maybe not fake woke, but wokeness just gone too far. Right? Because now...
that's fake woke. That's fake woke to me.
Now here we are, right? So, I think it was like recently, Family Guy. We all know Family Guy. Mm-hmm. Family Guy, South Park, right? 2 of the most popular teen-oriented younger adult cartoons of the last 15, 20 years.
Right.
Crude jokes, nothing's off limits, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden, gay jokes are out.
Is that a thing?
No, but he's serious. One of the writers of Family Guy said we're no longer going to engage in gay jokes. It wouldn't be appropriate for the current time that we're in.
What about black jokes?
I didn't hear much about that.
What about women jokes? Disabled jokes?
Listen.
Dead people jokes?
Hey. All things Family Guys made fun of. Family Guys even made fun of pedophilia, bro. This is what I'm talking about, like the wokeness thing has gone too far. Like, yes, all people have been marginalized at some points if you're not in the majority. Black people, gay people, freaking whoever
even Christians.
Yeah, whoever you can think of, right? But now all of a sudden things are off limits now, right? Because you just can't touch these things no matter what. No matter what, they're always right.
I'm going to touch them.
Nothing wrong with being gay. That's not where I'm going with this, right? Now, we can't ask questions about recently transitioned male, or not even transition, just identification, is dominating female sports. Like, that don't sound right. If my daughter is nice and then some dude just comes in here and starts being, I'm like, yo, get this guy out of my sport. And you know what? If you want to do this, right? If there is this trans and they constantly, I'm hearing the argument of the science is guys are naturally bigger, whatever, because of testosterone levels and Y chromosomes, whatever. I don't think you can just change that at like 15, 16, 17 years old after all that development and be like, all right, we're just going to lower your testosterone levels. That doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no.
It's like your body's already developed. Even if you do some things to, I don't know if the word is regress or like to walk back.
Yeah, it reduces the testosterone level, but it's not going to make you shorter or...
Yeah, like exactly. It's not going to make you shorter, right?
Right.
You might find it hard to keep the same amount of weight, but it's not going to do that, though.
But your performance does suffer.
It might, yeah.
No, it does.
Sure,
so I've looked into this. I didn't want to sound ignorant, right? To inoculate myself a little bit. So there was a study done. It was a cyclist.
How you gonna sound ignorant with a big word like that, man?
It was a German physicist. He's like 62, but he used to be like a top level track runner. He transitioned from male to female, right? And he documented that during and after his transition, he just couldn't perform at the same levels as when he was like a fully formed man, right? And relative to men and women, when he was a man, he was top level. When he became a woman, his performance suffered, but that performance relative to women was also top level. So your performance does suffer when you get on the hormone therapy, they call it, right?
Okay, which is fair.
At the same time, there are studies that show that hormone therapy doesn't really reduce your performance for up to a year after you transition, or after a year of being on it.
And I want to separate two things, right? People that have transitioned, people that have not transitioned, right?
Like you talking about like going under the tape, like under the knife, like surgery.
Yeah, yes, to have some type of therapy or I said therapy, excuse me. That some type of surgery or some type of drug program that will make them transition to their desired gender. If you want to live your life like that, that's all fine.
I'm with it.
We're not arguing this, right?
Whatever.
But there are things that need to be protected, right? If we're going down this trans athlete thing, then here's my solution to this problem.
You got a solution?
I got a solution, right?
Word.
There's more than two genders, supposedly, right? There's more than two genders. Supposedly.
Do you believe it or not?
We're just saying.
How you gonna say that and say supposedly?
Just for the sake of argument, right? We'll just say there's more than two genders for the sake of argument, right?
All right.
So you have not female gender. What do we call it? Like
cis,
boy gender, girl gender.
Cis woman. What?
Cis is identifying with the. It's like girls identifying with being a woman, right? And boys identifying with being a male.
I feel just wrong saying it. Why do we need a term for that?
I don't know how to describe it. It's just like
I never understood it.
It's aligning with the sex you're born at. It's aligning with the same
gender. Why is there a term for that? Man, that's just a woman.
There's a term for everything. There's a term for everything. We're not.
I don't like that term. But go ahead.
If we're going down this road, right, of even and if transitioning still affects your performance, which is I'm not debating that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to separate people who have transitioned with people that have just identified. Because there are many people that identify that don't get any surgery or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Those are the worst.
Before I offer my solution, what is your take on their ability in sports?
On the people
like
who transitioned?
Say just one day, like I'm identifying as a woman. I'm not going through any surgeries, you know.
Oh, this has happened multiple times, especially in high school. Like, if it's a guy saying that he's a girl, if it was a person who was raised as a man saying that he's now a girl, he's gonna blow them out of the water, like 9 times out of 10.
Okay.
I don't hear much about women saying that they're men
and
dominating, but we're gonna get back to that. But 9 times out of 10, once a man go into a woman, he's gonna kick some ass.
And if it is the person that said, "Hey, I'm gonna transition, right? I'm gonna go under the needle. I'm gonna do the hormone therapy, yada yada yada."
Mm-hmm.
They need their own class.
They need to be their own thing.
They need their own thing. You have men, you have female, you have male, female, transgender.
I kind of disagree with that.
Why?
So,
bro, it's just not fair.
No,
it's
but
not fair.
Here's the thing, though.
People under those circumstances to compete.
So the distinguishment between male and female in sports, I don't want to say it's been murky, but it's gotten more shady ever since like we started questioning what's really a man and what's really a woman, right? Because there was an instance where it was a woman, I think she was a track runner, and she was great. It was like 1965, I think I saw. She was great. She won medals and stuff until later it was discovered that she has XY chromosomes. But it turns out that she had a genetic disorder that made testosterone have no effect on her. So she had no benefits from testosterone. So after she had lost the medals, it was then reinstated, but then her career was ruined. So was she a man? Was she a woman?
That depends, because we done some research on this. We want to make sure we're clear. There are people that have born unisex, that have both X, that have both, what's the word?
The chromosomes, X and Y?
I think it's XXY chromosomes, but they have both female and male reproductive organs. Mm-hmm. Like, there are people born like that. There are people that are literally unisex. It's rare.
Mm-hmm. But
I think one of the recent track runners has come under this flame because people are saying she's a woman, people are saying she's a man. She's one of those people that's born both and she's being in the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't have a
solution for. That's pretty shady.
Murky, but that does happen though. The reason I'm proposing this solution is simply because there is, and we're talking about as a whole, not just track either, right?
Yeah.
There's very few women that can dunk, right? So
even in the WNBA, I don't really watch it, so I don't know.
There's probably been 2 dunks in the last 5 years.
All right.
But I know Brittany Griner's got one, and that's it is really impressive for a girl. Girls just are not the best jumpers, especially when compared to men, right? That entertainment value, that athleticism value is one of the reasons why men's basketball is more popular than women's basketball.
And men's soccer as well, right?
Yes. And then when you compare, there's been many, same thing with tennis, right? But women's tennis is very popular still.
Yes. But remember,
Serena Williams, right?
But she gets called a man all the time.
She does, which is completely unfair.
It is
ridiculous.
But you get to see how people think.
Horrible undertones.
Yeah.
She faced, I think, the number 77 ranked player on the men's circuit, and she got bodied.
What?
Yeah, she got bodied. I don't know. There's just a different in game. There's different in pay. There's difference in power.
What?
Difference in speed. Yes, bro. Same thing with the U.S. Women's national, the World Cup winners, right? Faced a U15 team, a U17 team, and got bodied. There is a difference when it comes to the sport. When it comes to things like speed and power,
there's a clear difference.
In sports that are dominated by speed and power, men are, especially at the pro athlete level, are going to have the advantage. When you get down to like high school and middle school,
kids are not needed to be included in this. Like when you're like 9 years old, you haven't got to puberty yet.
Your body's still developing and all that type of stuff.
It hasn't even started developing. Like you haven't got to puberty yet.
Yeah.
A 9-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy.
You're still growing though.
A 9-year-old girl.
You're still growing.
Yeah, but a 9-year-old girl can easily be faster than a 9-year-old boy.
No, yeah, very.
That's what I mean. But once you get older, that's more difficult.
True.
If they train the same.
When you get to like adult level, high school puberty level, those differences really start to matter.
Yes.
And I feel like that's why when you're younger, you see like a lot of co-ed sports. You know,
exactly.
You see a bunch of co-ed sports. You don't really see that in high school.
Exactly.
I think the only co-ed thing we had was swimming, which always was a little strange to me. But
I didn't pay that much attention to swimming. But I was gonna say why I disagreed with your solution, right? So I was starting to say that the definition of men and women blurry in sports. What's a woman? What's a man? Yada yada yada. My point was that instead of having them in a separate division, which I think would be tough, because I don't know if there's that many of them competing to have like whole divisions with opposing teams filled with trans people. But I would suggest that at the beginning and at the end of their transition, they compete with the people that they most closely biologically identify with. If you say you're a woman, if you're saying you're a woman, but you have the testosterone levels, the muscle mass, the bone density of a man, you should be competing with the men. And then at the end of your therapy, when you have the muscle mass, bone density, the rate of improvement as a woman, you will compete with the women. You compete with who you most closely, physiologically identify with. I think that's the fairest thing to do. And until it can be proven that your testosterone levels is not giving you an unfair advantage over women, you don't compete with the women, you compete with the men.
I hear what you're saying, and it's an okay solution, but that just doesn't sit right with me, man. It just doesn't sit right.
You wouldn't feel good like looking to your left on the starting line, seeing a man who probably looks like a man to you, but is a woman. Like, is that why?
It just doesn't make. These differences occur for reasons, man. Like we spoke about the biological differences. I just don't. I don't know the extent that hormone therapy can really have on.
It can have a good, strong effect if it's long term.
But it's not the same as. It's like almost like I don't want to compare it to steroids or like that type of thing. But you're talking about like natural bodies and all that type of stuff, and then you're forcing people that go on these programs, go on these drugs, and all. It's just. It feels like it takes away the purity of the sport.
What do you mean?
Because
she's on hormone therapy, it's like taking a drug that affects her performance, is like that?
Yeah, I feel that way. Even if it's negative or positive.
I see what you mean.
When you're talking about other drugs, right? There's some you can take and there's some you can't take, right?
What if you can't?
There's like you're allowed to take like protein supplements in many places, but you're not allowed to take anabolic steroids, right? And I feel like it's in a murky area between those two things. We're talking about hormone therapy. Right. That's how it feels to me.
No, I get that. I didn't think of that.
And quick correction on the Serena Williams thing. I said number 77. It's actually number 203.
Did you just look that up?
Yep. At the height of Williams' boom in 1998, unofficial game took place in Australia between Serena and Venus that claimed no male player outside the top 200 could beat them. Up stepped a German known as Karsten Brach. Excuse me for my German pronunciation. It's not the best. Who was ranked 203rd in the world After first beating Serena 6-1, he then disposed of Venus 6-2. I didn't know it would be that difficult. I played shots that would have been winners on women's circuits, and he got to them very easily.
I think that's pretty
and it's just telling,
telling.
I'm not saying that like the best women aren't still amazing performers. Like I've watched women. I've become a big tennis fan lately.
Women can do things that I can't do. And easily.
Gymnastics and volleyball are very popular women's sports. That
not even in track and soccer and shit like that. Like I'm not saying as a man I'm automatically better.
I am not better than Alex Morgan at soccer. I'm not better than Serena Williams at tennis.
Right.
This is not those type of arguments that you see in like WNBA, NBA circles. Like, oh, I'll shit on her. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Right.
What I'm simply saying is men and transitioning women, males to women, should not be allowed to participate in women's games. That's just how it feels to me. I'm hearing what you're saying.
2 questions.
Go ahead.
First one. Yeah. I'm going to forget the second one. That always happens to me. But the first one. So we've seen a lot of male to female, and they dominate. Do you think there's as many female to male athletes out there? Why aren't we seeing them make headlines?
You see, here's the other thing that is resonating with me. I have not seen many stories of previous women going to males and dominating that circuit. Maybe they've won,
yes,
but I've not seen domination.
I actually found one instance. I looked for it. I found one instance. It was a boxer, Patricio Menendez or something like that. Female to male. On her first match as a male, right? She was going up against a boxer with a lot more experience than her. Like this guy was good, and she beat him, or he beat him, right? And it was a huge upset. There was articles, headlines, everything, and he was like, this is what I'm talking about. Like transgender people, there's no unfair advantage at all. Like I'm a winner regardless of my gender, and it's like, does that make a case for there being no unfair advantage between transgender people?
I just don't know how. All right, so to answer your question, right before I go on to what I was gonna say. It's so rare, and that's a one particular upset. What's the rest of her career looking like?
Good questions.
I don't think there is no, there is still an unfair advantage. It's just it usually works the other way around. I never seen it work from woman to male.
I haven't seen it.
I think that is one unique case. We don't know why. I mean, if it's just one match, upsets can happen, right? Upsets can happen. Upsets happen in sports all the time when underdog wins. When you're looking at the other way, when you're looking at from male to female, it's domination, bro. It's like you're seeing lawsuits get put in place because previous male, and this is happening in high schools, in a decent amount over the U.S. There's a couple cases. I'll make sure to link them in the description for the pod and the YouTube channel. There's cases where people bring up lawsuits against transgender males playing women's sports because they're just dominating the circuit. It's like, what are you gonna do?
And there's laws that are being passed, attempting to be passed for this, and some of the arguments against those laws is that this is another instance in a long string of instances of transgender people being banned from public spaces. And this is going to set back the LGBTQ community if we allow this to happen. And I disagree with that.
Okay, go ahead.
Because, all right, so I think the laws were trying to ban transgender people from competing at all, right? Which
no one ever said that.
Right, which I disagree with. I think there should be laws, or at least sports regulations, not necessarily like government laws, but at least sports regulations about transgender people, athletes, I would say. But I don't necessarily think that banning trans people from competing in sports right now is necessarily in line with like that whole bathroom fiasco. You remember that from a couple years ago?
Yeah.
When they couldn't even use the bathrooms when they go out. Like that was wild to me. I don't think the sports thing is in the same realm.
No, because it's not. The bathroom thing is a whole different story, and I just think the logic behind it, or the reason why the people were against it, were just things that weren't happening. Like it wasn't that like, women, like the transgender people shouldn't go to the gender day. It sounds like they're gonna be like peeking in on.
Right. They were making it
was
seem
just-
like every
yeah.
trans was like this, like this creepy ass.
Yeah, that was that
showing
like,
his dick to the little girls
right,
type. That was wild.
That was a stretch.
But when it comes to the sports one, there's
Go ahead.
actual factual reasoning. So there's so many articles about mothers who are upset because they have daughters who compete in sports. Track and field is what I see usually. And they're upset because their daughters are never going to get any of their athletic accomplishments like recognized.
Yeah.
Because no matter how hard they train, how many seconds or milliseconds that they shave off of their sprint times, there's going to be a woman who grew up as a man, who has the body of a man, who has all the biological and physiological characteristics of a man, who just maybe trains less than her daughter and just dominates her every time because of the natural, like her daughter and her natural God-given talents and abilities will never match that of a man. Yeah. And I don't think that's wrong to say, because I've seen this too. Women on the higher ends of the spectrum for like how much testosterone like women can hold. If you look at a woman who's on the higher end of that spectrum, she still has several hundred times less testosterone than a man on the lower end of men.
Which is reasonable and fair. Continue.
Right. And so when it comes to like banning them, I feel like that is where the law has like a foothold, because there's actually something happening and it's affecting girls' futures.
Yeah, but you can't. And so really quickly, you can't ban them from, or you can't ban them directly from participating in high school sports and college sports. Those don't have the year, but once again, we'll also link. And this is something I know as an athlete myself. Title IX was part of this. It's a law that says the funding for both male and female sports has to be the same.
Okay.
Right. So if you're talking about like men's basketball, like they have to have the same or relatively the same. Maybe not
like the same budget.
Relatively the same budgets.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, you can't have like a $500,000 high school basketball team and a $25
women's team.
Yeah. Right? It wouldn't make sense. It needs to be some. Even so, there's no discrimination against either gender for their sport.
Right.
So you can't outwardly ban them. And there's been a couple of laws, like Idaho, right? Teenager, what's her name really quick? Let me see. I think her name now, Lindsay Heacox, right? Previously a man, transgender, came out in college, lived a wonderful, was starting to live a wonderful life, and then she wanted to run in college as a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you see the issue here, where it's like...
Did she undergo surgery?
No.
Okay.
No. And there was Idaho passed a state law that said you can't change the gender on your birth certificate to match your sex or vice versa. I'm just making sure I have this right. And that's part of the... What do you call... I don't know what the right way to say this is. I don't know if that's... I don't think that's the right term either. I think that was unconstitutional. But I think when we're looking at these problems, we have to think of every party involved, right? Not just the malaligned people. Like, there's more than one person or group of people being negatively affected by this.
Right.
Right? So if you're the guy transitioning to a girl... You
want to compete.
It's like, I understand you want to compete, but... You'll probably have to compete against other men transitioning to women. I think that's the fairest thing. That's the other fairest thing to do. There's nothing else. There's nothing else you can do.
So you were, and I understood your argument when it came to my proposed solution. You were hesitant about competing against someone who is taking performance suppressing drugs, and so you're saying that the only people that someone taking performance suppressing drugs can compete against is other people who are taking performance suppressing drugs. Mm-hmm. You don't think that's going to create just a shit show?
What do you mean?
Like, if you're the champion this year, you can easily, like, not even matter the next year because your drugs have taken more of an effect.
Well,
titles held in that arena probably won't last very long.
NCAA has a 1-year rule that, like, when you're transitioning to these drugs, you have to at least do 1 year of hormone treatment to compete on a female team. Mm-hmm. That's NCAA. Mm-hmm. Right. I would propose something similar to that, where you're not allowed to compete right away. You have to... You're going to this drug policy.
I was thinking of something like that, but you still can't compete. That's still like something holding you back.
I mean, what you're doing is a big life change in their is going to be repercussions of that.
You know what? That's fair.
Right.
But the Olympics has some guidelines in place. They have 3 rules, right? I think in 2003 they came out with 3 requirements for trans athletes. You need to have had surgery. You need to have a document signed by a medical professional affirming your gender, saying like you are medically a woman,
Okay.
and you need to have a testosterone level below like 0.5 liters or whatever the measurement is.
Okay.
All of which I think is fair. And until then, you can't say, well, I want to compete and this law is holding me back. This is discrimination,
Which is fine, bro. And that does sound like a reasonable thing to do. But I think the best way to ensure even competition.
But they won't have any competition in a trans league. How many trans athletes do you think are out there?
I don't know. But
In Idaho, she's probably the only one in Idaho.
It's the same thing as like how many hockey teams do you think there are in Florida for high school? Like probably not a lot.
I don't know.
Like how many freaking basketball teams do you think there are in Alaska? It's just like, yo, it's like that is sometimes the short end of the stick. Your particular sport or your particular gender may affect your ability to find competition.
Yes.
But if that's the way it's gonna be, until there's enough,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because at first it wasn't always like whatever sport you're part of when it first starts, there's usually not enough, and then you slowly build a sport.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I can think of that comes off right at the top of my head is lacrosse.
Is that how lacrosse started?
No, lacrosse is a very old sport, kind of taken from Native Americans. It's a variation of it, but not.
Mm-hmm.
Lacrosse was nowhere near as popular now as it was 20 years ago.
It was more popular 20 years ago?
No, it's more popular now than it was 20 years ago, right?
Okay.
Slowly builds up with, new kids, and then now there's enough to now you can start thinking about, hey,
but think
high
about
schools can have a lacrosse team now.
Yeah.
That's how it's gonna have to be. Until there's enough, you're not gonna have it. And then what you have to do is you have to do that at like a club level, like an intramural level, where you say, okay, there's some transgender athletes at this school, but not enough to form a team. There's some transgender athletes at this school, not enough to form a team.
I don't think there's.
You combine those, and then you have your teams.
Every school probably has like max 3 trans athletes.
It's fine.
So they'd have to travel like and be like a national team.
You'll have to form
or a national league.
Listen, you have to understand
and that league will only last a year.
No, it won't last a year.
Well, there's new people coming in and
there's
going out.
new people coming. You have to understand that your process is not just affecting you; it's affecting other people. So this is like literally me trying to help, or trying to propose a situation that
it's fair for everyone.
It's fair for everyone.
Right.
Right.
But here's the thing, though.
Because I'm not 100% sure of the science about this, but I don't know how much of, like I said, I know it does affect the levels of it, but it's like 0.5 the magic number, where it's like, all right, this is the acceptable amount of testosterone for that.
You know what? There's debate about that.
That's what I'm saying. Like, there's no, like, how do you know the numbers where it's like, oh, this is where the unfair advantage stops?
There's actually debate about that because the limit for testosterone that they have to compete with women is so close to like the usual amount of testosterone like in a man, it's almost pointless.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's women that dominate their field that just have more testosterone.
That's what I'm trying to get to. So
go ahead.
When it comes to natural advantages, right? That's an argument that I see all the time. Well, we're not banning the 7-foot basketball player from competing in high school. We're not banning, the track, the long jumper with the really long legs because he was born with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Why are we banning trans people for being born in the wrong body? And to that, I say...
Go ahead.
To that, when it comes to natural advantages, sports are divided into certain classes, right? When it comes to wrestling, there's weight classes. We're not going to let a 200-pound man wrestle with a 150-pound man. There's heavyweight, lightweight for a reason.
Uh-huh.
We separate sports by, weight, by whatever, and also by gender.
Yeah.
And so if you were physiologically or biologically one gender, that's what you should be competing in. There's no height classification for basketball. That's why the 7-foot is allowed to compete.
Yeah.
Fair or not, there's no classification for that. But there is classification for men and women. And if you're more on the woman or the man class, that's who you should be competing against.
I completely agree. Right? I am 5'11" on most. I'm 6 feet on my best day, 5'11" on most, right? If I was 6'7", my basketball career could have probably got further. But that's just the stick life dealt me, man.
Right.
That's just what I got.
Is LeBron cheating because he's 6'9" or whatever he is?
So people gonna be naturally better, stronger, taller. That's perfectly fine.
But if there's no class dividing those people, then it's fair game.
And I think like for wrestling, it makes for physical sports like that where it's wrestling, where strength is a big indicator of how well you do. Like sports like basketball, football, soccer, they are big indicators, but like there's other ways you can be good. Yeah.
Like Steph, like if you're good at shooting.
If you're good at a skill, but like in a physical combat sport.
Who's that 5'9" basketball player? Wasn't there someone?
Thomas?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're so good and you're crafty, all this, but he's just like at such a huge disadvantage because of his height.
Right.
Track, wrestling, boxing, UFC, MMA.
The differences are so pronounced when it comes to like man versus woman.
Like a 20-pound difference is like
Oh.
Literally, bro.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine like Mike Tyson fighting Floyd Mayweather? Or like Muhammad Ali fighting like Oscar De La Hoya? Like the weight difference is so like it's like a 50, 60, 70 pound weight difference is so big that like one punch from this guy.
You used to watch not MMA. You used to watch like SmackDown and WWE, right? Yeah. Imagine Mark Henry going against
fucking Rey Mysterio, bro.
Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, bro. Like, we know this shit's fake, bro. Like, yo, come on, bro. We're not buying this shit, bro.
Didn't that happen? And he beat Mark Henry.
He beat like Mark Henry or beat like great. I think he beat Great Khali.
Something like that.
Yeah,
it was like
bro.
This is bullshit.
I was like, come on, bro. I was like, come on, man. We all say like this is bullshit, bro. And we should be able to say that this is bullshit,
right?
Man. And I'm not saying for these trans athletes it's the same type of bullshit, but it's like I don't even want to call it bullshit. I'm just saying it does not seem fair for me for a man who was previously a man or was transitioning whatever to a female to compete in these sports, man. It just does not. It does not like. I don't know how you quantify the magic number of 0.5, whatever. Maybe we need to do more research, but from a just
it's
logically
not precise.
Thinking outside point of view, like just using some common sense. Use some critical thinking here. I really think the best solution is until there's enough, and what is transgender of the population? Maybe like 1%, 2%.
I think so. That might be generous.
Might be generous, yeah, right. But you have those people. Until there's enough of them that become athletes, or for their sport, they will have to look at like making club teams and doing intramurals, like a bunch of high schools do for like sports like lacrosse, right? Or sports like football, right? If your high school doesn't have enough for a football team, and BPS does this, right? I work in Boston Public Schools. There's some schools that would not have enough for a basketball team, right? So the schools like maybe a school of 200, 300 people, but now they don't have enough basketball. You know what they do? They are allowed to play for another school. Or they'll combine like 3 of the smaller schools to make one team.
Okay.
That's a solution you could look at. So if you go to, we'll just use Boston schools for example. If you go to the Burke, right, fairly big school, you shouldn't have a problem filling the team there. But then if you're looking at schools that are much smaller,
is Madison one of the smaller ones?
No, Madison one of the big ones. If you're looking at schools that are much smaller, like maybe like Southie. Maybe like
I don't know
like
those.
Boston United, like
small for a reason, I guess.
Like one of those preppy day schools. Looking at those schools that have less population that will have a tougher time fielding a football team or a basketball team, and they're allowed to combine with the other small schools to make one team.
So you're saying get some trans people from a bunch of different schools, put them into a team.
Just literally do that, and then you'll be able to find leagues out. It'll be harder.
They might have a starting lineup, but they ain't gonna have no backups. They ain't gonna have no subs.
That's fine, bro. It's a start. And then when there's a start, then there'll be more people willing to come out, more people willing to. The barriers be their true selves in high school, and now they'll be like, okay, maybe like I bet you there are some people out there that have not transitioned because they're like, if I transition, then I won't be able to compete in my sport. I bet you there are. I don't know how many, but I bet you there are at least some. But
before you transition, you shouldn't be able to compete with.
No, because you're still with your same gender. If I'm male and I haven't transitioned to a woman yet,
then you can still compete with the males. Okay.
And I'm sure there's some that want to transition, but they're still athletes, and they're like, let me weigh my options before I transition.
Right.
Like, I really want to transition, but I also still really want to play a sport, and I won't be able to play the sport if I transition to female.
Yeah.
So
if
we start this thing I'm proposing, I'm sure there'll be people in that boat, maybe not a lot, but a few that can join, and there'll be people from other avenues.
How would you feel about
that will join that?
People who are not trans joining the league? Do you think they'd allow that?
I don't see what purpose they have there. Not in the competitive aspect, at least. If it's
Yeah,
if it's a club / intramural thing, and that's what you want to do, then I guess it's just weird though. It's kind of like if you're in a gay men's basketball league, and you're not gay but you join, it's like. I mean, like you're allies, so I guess you can join, but it's like it's not really your space.
Yeah, it's like saying only gay men can go to a gay bar. Straight men can walk in there. I don't know why they would want to.
But it's not your space. Like it's really for these specific people, man. It's like if you had like a, I'm not even going to racial lines. It's too messy.
Like a white bar. We had that in the 50s.
Say if you had like an all black bar and a white person came, you'd be like,
oh, that's not.
Oh, you see this all the time. You see this at church. You see this at church all the time, right? Typically, your black churches, right? And like a white person comes and it's like, what the hell is going on here? They get looks, bro. They get looks. They get looks, bro. I'm just saying, man. You ever been in church in Mad Pan, bro?
You talking about? I'm not gonna say the names.
They get looks. That's all I'm saying, bro. And even the pastor could have been white. The priest could have been white. Hey. The other white people coming again, look, bro. That's all I'm saying. It doesn't make sense for those people. That's how I feel. They still can, and I'm pretty sure they'll be welcomed. But
yeah,
it'll be a little funky.
Let us know what you guys think, man. What's the question that we're gonna leave them with?
Do trans athletes need their own league, or should they be able to compete in the gender that they identify with? All right.
I feel like the Olympics had pretty good guidelines. I feel like unless you do surgery, you have a certifiable medical status of a woman, and your testosterone is reasonable for women.
How are we doing? So we're just defining womanhood by testosterone?
That's what I'm saying. It's hard to define what's a woman and a man. That's what I was telling you.
I can't even. This episode is almost too long if we even dive into that question, bro.
But that's what I was trying to get at. It's for sports, it's hard to define what is a man, what is a woman. Is it just testosterone? Is it like height? Is it weight? You can have a woman with high testosterone, 6'4", 250 pounds. That happens.
Well, we separate sports by sex.
But sex is fluid now, isn't it?
No, gender is fluid. Sex is not fluid.
I'm confused. I want to end the episode.
Come on, man.
Genders, all right.
Gender is
educate
fluid.
me. Educate me.
There's more than two genders is what you always hear, and there's always pushback. There's not more than two genders.
So there's more than two genders, but I always hear that. But there's only two sexes. Unisex, like you said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is very rare. So, really, like two, but male sex. Man, we had this before, bro, right?
No, I feel like we do. I feel
like give us 2 more minutes, right? Remember the whole female thing?
What female thing?
Oh, man, you can't.
You can't call them females?
No, fucking. You're a sexist pig, da.
Yeah. Dehumanizing all that stuff?
Yes. Because the girl will be the female woman, right? Or like it's how.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Because you can have a female.
A female, you can have like a female horse.
Right. Okay.
Which is.
So in nature, there's two sexes. It's not just human based. In nature, there's 2 or 3 sexes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. When it comes to gender,
social construct,
human based,
spectrum, fluidity.
Okay.
All that type of stuff.
All right.
Right. So we separate sports by sexes. That's my proposed theory. Right, and then for transgenders, and for gender specific qualifications, they get their own league.
Good luck with that. I mean, I hope
I
I want a fair solution. I don't want to ban anybody from competing when they want to compete. I don't want to put them on hold for a year. Yeah. Maybe you need that year to recover from the surgery anyways. I don't know why you want to compete like the next week after your surgery.
Probably.
I don't know, but I just want a nice, clean, fair solution, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think is a nice, clean, fair solution to this. It might not even be a problem for you. Do you think this is a problem? Let us know.
It's not a prevailing problem, but if you're the people on the wrong end of that stick, I'm definitely feeling that.
But there's 2 wrong ends, because on one end, if you're the trans male, you're like being attacked in public everywhere you go. And then,
so there's always gonna be nasty people that are nasty to different people, which is.
But that's not sports related, though.
That's an unfortunate aspect of life, though.
Yes.
Right, and as we move forward, we have to try to break down those barriers and break down these stigmas and negative things.
Yes, ideally.
But just because you're malaligned doesn't mean, okay, now I am in a position where I'm not malaligned anymore. Now I can malign other people.
I'm hesitant to use this word, but to go off what you said, just because you're malaligned in one space doesn't mean you get to invade another space.
Yeah,
I'm hesitant to use that word,
yeah,
but
of course. And
for lack of better words.
I think the people that are actually listening to what we're saying will know what we're trying, or at least know what we're trying to say.
Yes.
Right. I feel like we've said it in a decent way that most people understand.
But I'm pretty sure
the people that are looking for an argument will try. Man, we saw the whole hell of the situation, man. They'll try to use semantics and things like that.
Yes.
You know. But like I said, we can wrap this up.
Lizzo's not big, and trans women are not really women, or they're not really males.
Opinion Factory Podcast. On Apple, such a YouTube, Spotify.
I had to bring that back up.
Wherever you listen to your podcast, be on the lookout. There will be the date this episode will drop. I believe will be February 2nd or 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting my days confused. Follow us on Opinion Factory Podcast on Instagram for a look at a giveaway for a nice mug.
Mm-hmm.
We want to thank y'all for the support. The channel's been going really big recently. And we want to thank everyone that shared, liked, commented. It's a huge help.
We appreciate y'all, man.
We want to give something back to y'all for doing that. Opinion Factory Podcast. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts.
And leave us a comment. Don't just let us talk about it and escape with everything we said.
Comments actually been good lately, man.
Yeah.
I like the comments on the last couple episodes.
Don't let us get away with everything we said, all right? Comment down below.
Challenge us.
Let us know what you think.
We're a community. Apple, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Thank you for listening, and we will see y'all
next week.